Hi, I'm Stephen Patterson from Matisse Derivan, and today we're going to talk about varnishing. Now, many artists, even professional artists that have been painting for many years, have some real issues with varnishing, but it's nothing to be concerned about. One of the big things is firstly working out why you want to varnish and if you want to varnish. You don't necessarily need to varnish acrylic paints, or acrylic paintings at least, but it's a good idea for several reasons. The first one is the obvious one. You can change the sheen, be it gloss, matte, or somewhere in between. But also, it gives a layer of protection for the picture. Now, this becomes more important if, for instance, you want the picture to be outside. And with that in mind, we'll talk about a few different types of varnishes that we make. First off is the number 19 and number 11, the polyurethane varnishes. These are very tough, hard varnishes, which would normally be used on things such as teapot stands or placemats, where you need something that's heat resistant and very tough. You don't really need that sort of resilience on a canvas, for instance. So moving along to probably the most versatile of the varnishes are the acrylic, the water-based acrylic varnishes. Now, these can be used for all sorts of different things aside from just a varnish. The polymer gloss varnish makes a great glue, an archival glue, so it won't yellow. PVAs will tend to yellow over time and go brittle. The polymer gloss varnish number 7 will not yellow and it won't go brittle. The polymer gloss varnish can also be used as a size for gold gilding or gold leaf. You lay it down and as it's drying, it'll make a perfect size. And then as a varnish, of course. Now, what we'll do to use this as a varnish, though, is we'll add some water. About 10% is a good place to start. It will depend on the temperature of where you're varnishing, on the humidity, and also keep in mind that with the varnish, with a water-based varnish, you want to make sure that you're putting only very thin coats on, lots of thin coats rather than one thick one. Now at this point I'll also talk about the brushes that you use. You can use most any brush to varnish with, but some brushes are much easier to use than others. This bristle brush seems like a nice enough brush to use, but it will tend to leave corrugations or brush strokes in the varnish. So something nice and soft and fine like this nylon brush would work perfectly. A hake brush is fine as well. This is goat's hair. But as I say, I'd probably avoid bristle brushes. The other thing is the size of the brush. Use a brush that makes sense to work with the picture. If you've got a picture that's the size of either of these ones and you try varnishing with a brush like this, it's going to send you a little bit mad. All right, so the application, and this is probably one of the most important parts. There are a couple of schools of thought. One is to only brush in the one direction, leave it to dry, and then brush across. Or there is another school of thought of going across at the same time. Either way that you do it, the main thing is that as you apply the varnish, with each stroke you get slightly lighter in your pressure when you're applying it. And this is called laying off. So you just slowly and lightly running the brush over to try and reduce the brush strokes that you've got. Now we'll leave that to dry and probably put another coat on. As I say, depending on the temperature and the humidity, so the higher the temperature, you want to add generally a little bit more water. If it's a very textured piece that you're working on, once again, add a little bit more water and make sure you put the coat on very thin. Once your coats of water-based acrylic are dry, the copybook way of finishing your work off is to then add the solvent-based varnish over the top. Now the reason you do this is because the solvent-based varnish is still an acrylic, but it will completely close off everything underneath it, won't let oxygen through, won't let anything through, becomes completely waterproof. This is a great varnish for mural work or anything that's going outside or anything that might be subjected to higher humidity than what you would normally subject a painting to. This varnish can also be stripped back off. It'll redissolve in terps, and you can take the varnish back off. And indeed, if you want to continue on with your painting, the water-based varnish is fine. You can have varnished and then you can go over it again with some more acrylic paint. But with the terps-based varnish, you need to strip that back off before you continue on. I'm Stephen Patterson from Matisse Derivan, and I hope you have fun with our varnishes.